Hi and welcome to our last video in the Homeschooling 101 series, Basics for Parents Before You Start. I have a really extensive post that you can find at 41more.com/new. Now we have a lot of information to get through in this last video because we're asking the question, is there only one right way to homeschool? And the answer, of course, is no. However, there are so many ways that I want you to kind of see what's out there, because if homeschooling is totally new to you and all you know is the traditional public school model, you might think that that's what homeschooling is, and it really is not. So we're going to talk about the different things that go into deciding what your specific homeschooling style will be. So first of all, homeschool is not a one-size-fits-all journey. You need to embrace your personality, your kids' strengths, their learning styles, and your educational philosophy. What are your priorities? Why are you homeschooling? So these are all things that go into it, right? Learning styles. Some of our kids are visual learners, auditory learners, kinesthetic learners. Some of our kids have learning struggles, dyslexia, where they need a whole different approach to school. And a traditional public school is made for one kind of kid that learns well out of a textbook and through lecture and through this one learning model. But with homeschool, you can fit your kids. It's a customized educational experience. It's unique to your family, it's flexible, and depending on what your budget is, it might determine your homeschooling style as well. If you want everything done for you, you want to order from a curriculum manufacturer, you want everything for third grade, that might cost you a bit of money. But if you're willing to be eclectic, to pick and choose the best from each learning style, you can actually homeschool on a very tight budget. So let's talk about the 5 main philosophies or main styles that homeschooling families use. There are more than this, and there are different ways to put these together into different looking homeschools, but here are just the 5 main styles that I want you to know about as you're considering homeschooling. First of all is a traditional approach or a text-based approach. This is for the parent who wants to open the box and go. You're just starting out, you might want a curriculum publisher to decide for you. The scope and sequence work is gone. This is where they tell you in 3rd grade math, this is what your kids will learn, and you go along with it. It's usually a boxed curriculum, and the negatives are it could get expensive, especially with multiple kids, because a lot of times you might have consumables that can't be reused, especially at the younger grades. And in this model, your kids progress through textbook-based learning. This can be a great way to start, especially if you're lacking confidence and are not sure you can make some choices on your own. And you can start this way your first year of homeschooling, but just realize you might want to pivot to another style later on in homeschooling. So that's number 1, the traditional or textbook-based approach. Number 2 is a classical based approach. This is for the parent who wants to teach their kids to learn for themselves. This approach has been around since the Middle Ages, and the 3 basic components are the grammar stage, logic stage, and rhetoric stage. And grammar is not just referring to English grammar like subject and verbs, but it's referring to, in the younger years, the basic building blocks of learning for your kids is learning the lingo and the words and the foundation blocks for every subject. So math has its own grammar. We learn about tens and ones and fractions. And history has its own grammar where we're learning facts and dates, and science has its own grammar. And then eventually, as your kids get older, they're building on that. They're able to express themselves in clear, persuasive writing and speaking. And so it really focuses a lot on reading and history. Your kids learn how to learn for themselves, lots of writing. And as the parent, you're a tutor and a mentor and a guide. So that was the classical approach. Number 3 is the Charlotte Mason method. Charlotte Mason was a teacher in England in the early 1900s, and she didn't believe that kids were just containers ready to be filled up with knowledge, but that kids are naturally curious and would learn from nature walks and going to museums and reading living books, which are books that are actually interesting to read, not textbooks. This Charlotte Mason method is for the parent who wants their children to play, create, and learn in real-life situations. It's a great methodology for the younger years, especially kindergarten through 8th grade. It fits so naturally for our kids who are curious and have that desire to learn anyway. It's a very natural approach to learning. So the kids view life as education, living books rather than textbooks, nature study, real life experiences, and as the parent, you create the learning experiences for your kids. So that's number 3, Charlotte Mason. Number 4 is unschooling. This is for the parent who values interest-led learning for their kids. It's not a traditional approach at all. It's very child-led, interest-led. You're basically immersing your kids in the topics that they love. It's very flexible, but it takes a little bit more confidence from you as the parent, especially if you have state laws where you need to make sure you're hitting certain subjects. And so you have to be creative and make sure you're hitting those milestones, but you're following your kids' passions. So if you have a kid that loves the Revolutionary War, you might dive into that for half a year and just spin off on so many different projects, field trips, passion projects, hobbies related to things of the Revolutionary War, and you just follow your kids' passions wherever they go. That's unschooling. And then number 5 is the eclectic method. This is for the parent who appreciates a relaxed approach and while you're still picking the best from every style. This is what we use, and it actually is the most common style of homeschooling because it's relaxed. You can pick and choose from every method, and you can change it up without any guilt. It easily fits in your budget because you do the choosing. Each subject can be matched with a style for that kid. And so your one kid might use a textbook-based approach for this subject. The next kid might use a Charlotte Mason approach, and you can just mix it up. It's really picking the best of all the methods, and you can easily change it up year to year or child by child. So an example is how this might look in our homeschool is math is very traditional, textbook based in K through 8th. My older kids in high school do math online. It's still very traditional. History and language arts are classical in our house, and science, especially up to 8th grade, was very based on Charlotte Mason's philosophy. Everything else might be unschooling. Art might be unschooling, right? Physical education might be a bit of unschooling, and we're just doing what the kids are into right now for their physical education. So that's a little peek into the eclectic style. Now, if your head is spinning and this was a lot of information, I have a download in my library, which you can see all these methods plus different curriculum publishers and resources that fit each method. So if you want in that resource library, you can go and request the password at 4onemore.com/library. Don't forget to check out my really extensive posts for new homeschoolers at 4onemore.com/new. And in the meantime, happy homeschooling.